The stinging slap of a lie echoed louder than the crash of the wine glass. For Rosa Reed, standing in the opulent dining room of the Gilded Spoon, it was the sound of her life hitting rock bottom. Fired, humiliated, and falsely accused of theft. She was cast out onto the cold city streets with nothing but a month's overdue rent and the worn silver pendant around her neck, her only link to a past she never knew. She clutched the familiar metal, a small, intricate compass, rose unaware that her public disgrace had been witnessed from a shadowed corner. She had no idea that the city's most powerful and enigmatic billionaire, a man haunted by his own tragic past, was about to see that very pendant, and have his entire world come to a dead stop. The air in the Gilded Spoon was thick with the scent of money and roasted duck. It was a symphony of clinking glasses, hushed but important conversations, and the subtle scrape of silver on porcelain. For the patrons, it was an evening of indulgence. For Rosa Reed, it was another 6 hours on her aching feet, balancing a fragile smile and heavy trays. Rosa was not naive. She knew her place in this ecosystem. She was a ghost in a crisp black uniform there to facilitate luxury, not partake in it. At 24, her life had been a series of temporary addresses and transient connections, a consequence of growing up in the unforgiving churn of the foster care system. She had no family album, no childhood home to revisit. All she had was a fierce work ethic, a quiet resilience, and the silver pendant. It had been with her when she was found as a toddler, a silent metallic clue to an origin story she'd spent countless nights trying to imagine. The pendant, a detailed compass rose with a tiny sapphire chip at the north point, was her anchor in a life that had always felt adrift. Tonight her anchor felt particularly heavy. Her section included Table 7, occupied by the formidable Mrs. Diokwa and her 2 scowling, silent companions. Beatrice Diokwa was a woman sculpted from disapproval, her face a mask of pinched entitlement, her fingers heavy with diamonds that caught the light and seemed to mock the humble surroundings of anyone earning an hourly wage. Waitress, she'd snapped earlier without making eye contact. More water, no ice this time. Do you think I enjoy the sound of melting ice? It's distracting. Rosa had simply smiled, her practiced, polite smile. Of course, madam, right away. The real trouble started with the wine. It was a bottle of Chateau Margaux that cost more than Rosa's monthly rent. Mrs. Diokwa had made a great show of sniffing it, swishing it, and finally giving a reluctant nod of approval. Rosa poured the first glass with the steady hand of a seasoned professional. It was as she was reaching to top up the second glass that had happened. One of Mrs. Diokwa's companions, a man with a bored expression, gestured expansively while telling a story, his arm knocking squarely into Rosa's. The bottle tilted. A cascade of crimson liquid, 1,000 tide surged across the pristine white tablecloth, splashing onto the bodice of Mrs. Diokwa's cream silk blouse. A collective gasp hushed the surrounding tables. Mrs. Diokwa shot to her feet, a look of theatrical horror on her face. "You clumsy oaf. Look what you've done. This blouse is ruined. It's couture. I am so terribly sorry, madam." Rosa began, her heart pounding against her ribs. "Your guest." "My guest? Are you blaming my guest for your incompetence?" Mrs. Diokwa's voice rose to a shrill crescendo, drawing every eye in the restaurant. "You are careless. This is precisely the sort of service one expects from places that hire riff-raff." The restaurant manager, Mr. Henderson, a man whose spine was made of jelly and whose primary skill was appeasing the wealthy, skewered over. He was short and balding, and he was already sweating. "Mrs. Diokwa, my deepest apologies. Is everything all right?" he asked, ignoring Rosa completely. "No, everything is not all right, Jonathan." She spat, using his first name to assert her dominance. "Your waitress has ruined my evening and my attire. I expect the restaurant to compensate me for the damages fully." Of course, Henderson soothed. "The meal is on the house, and we will, of course, cover the cost of the blouse." We'll handle everything. Rosa stood frozen, humiliated. She knew it wasn't her fault, but she also knew that in this world, the truth was a currency she couldn't afford. She began to quietly gather the soiled napkins, her face burning with shame. Then Mrs. Delqua's eyes narrowed. She let out a small sharp gasp, her hand flying to her neck, then her wrist, then her fingers. "My ring," she whispered, her voice suddenly laced with a new, more venomous accusation. "My God, my diamond ring. It's gone." Panic erupted. The woman's companion started looking under the table. Mr. Henderson's face went from pale to ghostly white. "My sapphire engagement ring." Mrs. Delacroix clarified, her gaze locking onto Rosa, "a family heirloom. It was on my finger just a moment ago during the commotion." She pointed a trembling accusatory finger at